I believe that everybody has a story, and I'm fascinated to hear them. So come with me as we take a walk down Fascination Street. Hey guys, Fleet Foxes is coming to San Antonio May 8th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. at the Tobin Center downtown. My listeners will get a 5% discount if they go to my website at fascinationstreetpod.com, click on the Support the Show page, and then click on the picture of Fleet Foxes. So enjoy Fleet Foxes, and thanks for supporting me. Hey guys, you know I'm in love with the Menlo Club, the monthly service that sends you really cool clothes. Well, a couple of months ago, I was hanging out with the CEO. We were having coffee in LA, and he was talking about the April package. Specifically, he was super excited about the April package because it's these dope-ass white shoes, these sneaks. And so I was talking with the guys at Menlo Club, and what they're going to do is, for my listeners, if you sign up as a member for April, not only will you get these amazing white sneakers, but if you use promo code FSP, as in Fascination Street Podcast, you will also get a really cool jacket and some awesome sunglasses thrown in with your April package. So sign up in April, you'll get the really cool shoes, a jacket, and sunglasses, all just for putting in promo code FSP when you sign up. I'm super excited about these shoes. I've seen them, and they're great for everything. You're going to want more than just one pair, and I don't even know if that's going to be possible. So sign up for the Menlo Club at themenlohouse.com and use promo code FSP at checkout. Thanks, guys.
Do you like eating sand? What about talc or titanium dioxide? The fact is, 99% of all vitamins on the market contain unnecessary and potentially toxic additives. That's why we've created Pure Vitamin Club. Our daily multicap is a carefully balanced formulation of the 13 essential vitamins plus 11 key minerals with no added ingredients of any kind. Just the nutrients your body needs to function at its best. But no vitamin will do you any good unless you actually take it. So we've made that easy for you. Pure Vitamin Club will deliver your vitamins to your door for pennies a day. Pure Vitamin Club.
Click on the Pure Vitamin Club bottle on the right side of the screen of this podcast webpage to get started.
Hey guys, a few weeks ago I got to go to LA again, and this time I got to interview Gina Grad. Now you probably already know Gina Grad from morning radio in the Los Angeles area, or where I found her, the Adam Carolla Show. This episode was actually recorded in the Adam Carolla Studios, and Gina and I talked about the greatest advice she's ever gotten. It was from Adam. We talk about her 9/11 experience, her recent exit from LA morning radio. We talk about her being on Vinny Tortorich's Sunday School podcast, and we talk about some really cool things to go visit the next time you're in Kansas City. Enjoy, guys.
Yeah, talk to me, yeah. All right, we are rolling. You guys go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Dawson.
You got it.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me, Gina Grad.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
This is a huge honor for me, so thank you for taking the time.
It's my pleasure.
Now, before we get started, this is going to seem a little odd, but I did get permission from my wife to do this.
Okay.
This is so that on Valentine's Day, I don't know if they'll last that long, but on Valentine's Day, enjoy yourself. I don't know how else to say it.
That's so sweet.
These heart-shaped cookies are...
Both?
Yes, they're both for you.
Thank you.
Don't tell Vinny.
I don't plan on it. You are so... May I ask you something?
Sure.
You're an avid listener. You listen to most of the shows, I imagine, on the Adam Carolla Show. So are these specifically because you know I probably won't be getting cookies from anybody else?
Yeah.
Thank you. That means a lot. We recently divulged that I'm going through a breakup, which is horrible because it's somebody that I love and am in love with and just wasn't working. So thank you for my cookies. I will be eating my feelings in the next few days.
Well, it was really more of a, just kind of don't feel alone. And,
you are
people
so
love
nice.
you. And
you know what? I can't tell you how much this means because when people generally, like in entertainment, or I guess in any realm, don't like change. We all fear change. We all resist change. And so when I started on this show, or when I started on the morning show, you just get a lot of sort of this wave of people making sure you know that you're not really welcome yet. You run this gauntlet of emotion. It's hard and it's scary and it's hurtful, and you just kind of show up with your biggest, best smile, even though, you've just read a ton of mean things about yourself. There's people who don't know you. But after this many years, I'm so grateful to say that has pretty much all gone away. And I was sort of bracing for people to say really mean things about this breakup, and anyone who comes out of the woodwork that I don't even know is just so lovely and supportive. And you bringing me these cookies, which might not even last the ride home. I'm lucky that I've won some people over. It just means a lot.
I think that part of maybe the reason that you're not catching some flack on this particular breakup is because, according to you, it was almost mutual. I mean, it wasn't like it sounded like a kind of a good breakup. I mean, it sounds weird, but it didn't sound.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard. Well, that's the thing. It's hard, and I don't know that there's ever in the history of breakups been a point where two people have looked at each other and be like, "We're not. You did. Me too. Yeah. Okay. High five. Bye."
Right.
But it's somebody that I love so much, who loves me so much, and it's just sad when you realize, like, I've been walking on your path for a while when I should have been walking on my own path. Not to be too general, but it's one of those things where you're just like, damn it, that's a shame. So nobody did anything wrong, but we weren't on the same page.
So because you tell it like that,
yeah.
I love him, we're still good friends, or whatever, however it's going to work out. I think that's the reason. It's because it's not like, that guy was a dick or fuck that guy.
I would never do that.
So I think that when people do that, then it kind of puts people off, and so it puts them in the mindset to say, "Oh, well, what about this chick? What did she have? What part did she play? Or whatever." And
trust me, I look in the mirror all the time and say, "What about this chick? What part did she play?"
Oh my God!
Because I am a
Knock it off.
Therapy nerd. But yeah, I'm not built that way, and maybe I have a touch of Stockholm syndrome. I don't know, but this is just anyone who's been in that's why. The thing I am always so careful not to do when a girlfriend, best friend goes through a breakup is talk shit on the guy she just broke up with. Because A, they always come back, and then I'm the one that said the mean things.
Right.
And B, I wouldn't want to disrespect that part of your life. They were there for a reason. So anything I say about him, ultimately I'm saying about you. So I'm just careful not to do that. And I would like for people not to do that to the people who are important to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that chick was a bitch, which means, hey, you have lousy choices.
You picked an asshole.
So let's talk a little bit about you.
Sure.
Well, let's talk a lot about you.
Great.
I'm from San Antonio.
Yes.
Your brother was born there. Have you ever? Well, I know you've been there because I've seen you guys there. But
yes.
Have you ever been there, like, to hang out?
I haven't, and I'm reminded all the time by my mom what a bum out it was that I wasn't born there too. Because out of all the stops we made, because my dad was a sportscaster and always moving to different markets, San Antonio was apparently like the Shangri-La. But my parents loved the culture, they loved the food, they loved the people, they loved everything, and then went from this beautiful sunny weather and this vibrant community to Portland, Oregon, which was, you need one of those like pink seasonal affective disorder lights. And we were there during, Mount St. Helens erupting and people having to shovel ash like snow. And so it was a different vibe. And I know, let's just put it this way. My parents are still very wistful and speak very fondly of San Antonio.
That's good to hear. I'll tell San Antonio.
Please do.
I'll tell them. It's a lot of fun. I think that our Mexican food, I've been here twice for a total of probably 10 or 11 days. Our Mexican food kicks your Mexican food's ass.
How is it possible that we have such terrible Mexican food?
I have absolutely no idea, but it ain't good.
It ain't good.
It is not good.
My friends who are from different parts of Texas are like, you guys don't even know how to do a proper breakfast taco. I'm like, what's a breakfast taco?
There's a guy he's a TV writer, and he used to live here in L.A., and then he moved to Austin, and I know him from another podcast. And when he was in Austin, that's not too far from where I am, so I drove up and I interviewed him. And I asked him what was his favorite thing about coming to Texas, or, what was a little different. Because, he's, I guess in LA, Texas has sort of a reputation for being a bunch of gun-toting hillbillies.
Right, 10-gallon hats.
Right. A bunch of, how do you say, not very accepting of different other peoples.
Yep, we all have the stereotypes.
Right. So I asked him, what stands out the most about Texas? And he was like, breakfast tacos. And when he ended up coming back to LA, and
That's all I want now.
He got back on that podcast, and they were like, so, tell us about your time. And he was like, they have this thing there. It's called let me see if I can say this correctly. It is a breakfast taco. And he talked for 45 minutes about breakfast tacos.
I totally understand, because the first time I had one, it was like the heavens parted and I had an orgasm.
Yes. When I first started doing the Insta-G.
Yep.
By the way, I've lost 30 pounds. Thank you, Vinny.
Mazel tov. Look at you.
What's funny is when I got here, I walked right past Vinny. And even though I interviewed him last time I was here, he didn't even recognize me.
That's Vinny. That's not on you.
Well, I was talking to him this morning.
Really?
About Serena. Like, not like in person or
right.
anything. And still, like, he just
But that's to your credit. You lost 30 pounds?
Know.
My God.
Matt DeAndrea, I saw him yesterday, and I was telling him that I lost 30 pounds. He goes, I guess it didn't occur to me last time I saw you, but I guess you were a fat person.
Yeah, couth is not
Matt.
something we have in spades around here, but we mean well.
I don't think you can say spades.
Oh, who knows anymore? I was talking about gardening.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, there you go. So what made you, I know that your dad was in radio.
Yeah.
What made you want to be in radio?
I didn't want to be in radio at all.
Do you know?
And now very much so.
Oh,
The
good.
tide turned. But when I was growing up, my dad was not only was he on radio, well, he was doing radio and he was doing TV on the weekends, all sports, but he was doing sports. I don't care about sports. I don't give a shit about sports. I like going to Kings games. I'll go to a Dodger game. I like other people who are excited about it, but it's not my thing. I don't care. I always kicked the soccer ball into our own goal just to see what it felt like to score a point. I was always in left field in softball and in t-ball, and I would make these elaborate wreath crowns facing the wrong direction next to the chain link fence. It's not in me. And whenever I ask my dad a sports question, instead of answering it, he always goes, "Oh, Angel, that's why I had a boy and a girl." And defeated, he just hangs his head and walks away. So that genre did not appeal to me at all. I thought it was something that boring dads did. They do radio. They, you turn on that crackly AM, news station and a little kid tunes it out. Right. So it didn't matter to me. So I wanted to do theater. I went to school for theater. I did, theater camp, theater, community theater. That's all I cared about. And after I left college and went to New York, it just wasn't fun anymore. I didn't think I was good at it. I was having this quarter life crisis. And I realized for me, it's because I love to perform. I love to entertain, but I didn't want to translate somebody else's words anymore. I wasn't good at it. I didn't love it. So when I started looking into stand-up and looking into radio and getting to perform as myself, my world opened back up. And that's when I realized I loved it. And talk radio specifically.
Really?
Yeah.
You weren't born, but I guess you were raised mostly in Kansas City?
Yeah, Kansas City, yeah.
My wife opened a hospital there.
Really? Menninger?
Last year? No,
I
think it was last year.
Oh, cool.
So I got a chance to go hang out there, and I was at, I don't know, Jack's or...
Jack Stack?
Yeah, that. I was there.
Good cue, man.
Yeah,
good cue.
Burnt ends
Burnt
is a thing.
ends!
Yes.
The rest of the country knows nothing of burnt ends.
I wouldn't have. I didn't. I was like, what the fuck is a burnt end?
Oh, they're delicious.
And I'm like, and the way they describe it is, all the little bits that fall off of bullshit. They cut those burnt ends specifically.
They do.
They were goddamn delicious.
Well, Kansans, my parents have never heard of tri-tip. That's a West Coast thing.
Right.
But burnt ends, that's ours.
They're so good.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, so while I was there and I was having dinner with some people that my wife works with, like the next day I was going to have nothing to do. And so I was like, what is there to do around here? Like, what should I go do? And if anybody is listening and gets the chance to go to Kansas City, there is this thing called the Arabia. Are you familiar with this?
Yes.
This is the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. So a riverboat, a fully loaded riverboat, which at that time was basically a general store.
Steamboat Arabia.
Because it was delivering to all these general stores up and down the river. It sank fully loaded. And basically, some plumbers found it on some farmland and dug it up and turned it into a museum. And it was fucking phenomenal.
I have been to that field trip so many times. The Steamboat Arabia. It is very cool.
I was there for, I think I was there for 4 hours.
Are you serious?
I was
They
almost
probably offered you a job as a docent.
I was almost the only person on the tour.
Oh my
because of the time that
God.
I came. And I mean, I was taking pictures of everything, and I was just pushing all the buttons and listening to asking a million questions. And they were like, "Who the fuck?
That's
what
so
are you doing?"
Cool.
It was so much fun.
First of all, I love that, and you're making me actually miss Kansas City, which doesn't happen very often because we're busy here and we're all swept up in our own lives. But when you were talking about boats, my first thought was, "Oh, did you go to the boats?" Which means did you go to the casinos?
Oh,
because you're only allowed to have casinos on water.
Right, on
so
the
they
water.
dug a little pool and they threw the casinos on top and called the boats. And that's how I spent my 18th birthday at the boats.
I'm sure. Yeah, that Arabia. Every time I talk to anybody, and if I find out they're even passing through there, I'm like, take an extra day, get a hotel, and go to the Arabia.
That's
it's
awesome.
Phenomenal.
Oh my God. Cool. I would never have thought about that again in my entire life. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's fantastic.
Yeah, man.
So enough about that. Let's talk about you again.
Okay,
Sorry.
sure.
I will wander, but I will try to always bring it back.
I'll
I
wander
usually
with
don't,
you.
but I try.
I wander with you.
You're so sweet.
Go wherever you want to go.
So a few years ago, circumstances happened. Doesn't really matter. There was an opening here at Carolla Digital for the newsgirl position.
Yes.
You already had a full-time job. What in the hell made you decide, oh, you know what would be really cool is if I had zero free time?
Correct. Look, man, I know I said before I hated radio growing up because I didn't understand it, but I love radio. It's my favorite medium. It's the most intimate medium. It's the people, they've become friends and family just because you turn the dial and you're like, I know that voice. I know their story. I've loved it my entire life. And
because you turned on the radio and it was your dad.
It was my dad. And I'd ask people, and when we missed my dad, when he was on the road, my mom would turn on the TV and he was doing the news and we would talk to the TV. It was very sad.
I think that's sweet.
It was sweet. And I would ask people, I was so little, instead of what does your dad do, what station is your dad on? Because that's what dads do. So I fell in love with radio. I've been a fan of, when Adam and Drew used to do the Loveline College Tour, I stood in line for 3 hours at the Lead Center at the University of Kansas to see them. And we had the cheapest nosebleed seats, but we were in the room with Adam and Drew. I waited for 2 hours to get my picture taken with them, which I swear to God, I will find that picture. It is in my mother's house in Kansas. And I'm wearing a Willy Wonka half shirt and giant rave pants. I will find it. I'm pretty sure I had blue eyeshadow too.
What the fuck are rave pants?
Like just giant jeans because it was the 90s.
Sure, it was the
worst. Oh God! And I will. And I've told Adam this. I'll never forget. Of course, Drew was very polite, but I'll never forget. I wanted to impress Adam because my dad just moved to LA. And I thought, oh, that's a connection we have, and he's in the middle of nowhere here. And I told Adam that my dad just moved to Sherman Oaks, and he goes, and that was the picture we took of him being completely unimpressed and me trying to fake a smile because I was so devastated. So back to your question. I love radio. I've been trying to break into it for years. And when I finally started making headway.
Was that here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was all in LA because I've been here for, 15 years now. That's what I love. So there's no saying no. I mean, I had my own podcast for 7 years. We did, over 2,000 episodes and we just kept showing up. I had the Gina Grad Show, the Pretty Good Podcast. I guested on everyone's shows. I always showed up. So saying no to a giant opportunity is not something that I can wrap my head around. Maybe I'll get to that at some point in my life. I sure hope not. So as terrifying as it was to commit to a 14-hour day that starts at 4:00 in the morning and ends at 5:00 at night or 6:00 at night.
5 days a week?
6.
Nice.
It was just too big of an opportunity to pass up. And I was just too excited to work with the people I was going to work with to say, who am I to say no to that?
How did you hear about the opening?
Here?
Yeah.
That's a really good question.
Because I know how I heard about it was Adam sort of did a state of the podcast after the first of the year.
Right.
And he had mentioned there were some changes.
I was sort of out of the loop at that point, and I would come in to fill in when they needed me. I remember I did a Vegas show with them and live shows, and just whenever you need me, I was honored to do it.
So you were kind of already on the periphery.
Well, and when I was at 97.1 at KLSX, they were at 97. So we were all there, but I was at night with Tim Conway Jr. So I knew Teresa and I had become really good friends, and you kind of get to know people even though we're on totally opposite schedules. So they kind of knew that I existed since 2005 or 6. But, I wasn't really in that circle. But I knew Dawson. I knew everybody just, because we're all the same station. I think Lynette might have called me, or Adam called me and talked to me for a little bit and, said, we like you a lot and we're, changing some stuff around and or maybe it was August. Who knows? It's probably August always ends up giving me a call, Mike August. And I'm just saying if it's something I'd be interested in. And I said, let me think about it. Fuck yes. And then Adam actually got on the phone with me and just, chit-chatted with me and, here's kind of what I want and what I'm expecting. And it's just, he gave me some of the best advice I've ever gotten, which is don't treat the show on Monday like it's your first show. Treat it like it's your 58th show. And that is just such a great way to kind of, yank the leash and just sort of snap you back into don't get overexcited. Don't try to, tap dance too much. Just treat it like you always been here and, you'll fit in just fine.
Like it might be your first day at this school, but it's not your first day at school.
Exactly. Exactly. And with somebody, not to, kiss his ass too much, but I've filled in on and done a million shows with a million people. And you kind of have to come in with an attitude of this isn't my first rodeo. I know what I'm doing. I'm fine. But I've been such a fan of him since I was like everybody else, since I was a kid, that you really just want to show up and do your best. And what your best is with Adam is a relaxed, confident demeanor, not shoehorn of all of the jokes I've pre-prepared. So right. It's just it's a very specific kind of train that you're getting on, and over, just trial and error, I think I've finally got a seat on the train.
You bring a lot to the show.
Thank you.
I think it's wildly amusing and fitting that there's a whole separate Twitter that's just Gina's Asides or Gina Grad's Asides or whatever it's called. The
greatest. I have nothing to do with that account, by the way. That is a lovely, amazing man who has just been a fan and an encouraging supporter since the old Pretty Good podcast days. This guy, Jared Miller, who I love to death. And, I say a lot of stuff under my breath. I don't scream a lot of it all the time. And sometimes it doesn't get picked up in the room, but somebody hears it and laughs about it on Twitter. So he made a whole account called Gina Grad's Asides of things that might not catch Adam or Brian's ear, but he didn't want them to go with being missed.
You say some pretty funny shit that just sort of gets by them sometimes. I don't know if they're not paying attention or if they're, onto something else, but you bring a lot to the show.
Thank you. And, it's funny because the first big radio star I worked with very closely was Tim Conway Jr. And I think in a lot of ways he kind of shaped my humor, and he is so dry. And like his dad, Tim Conway Sr., it just deadpan dry. And it doesn't always cut through. But if you're listening, oh man, that shit gets me every time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So somewhere in all of this busy, never stop to take a breath work ethic, that I guess you got from your parents, right? I mean, that's what people usually get the work ethic.
Yeah. And mentors for sure.
Sure. So also you've dipped your baby toes into a little bit of acting. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, that's what I grew up being 100% sure that I was going to do with my life. So I moved here to do it. I moved to New York to do it. And, along the line, I kind of transitioned out of it. But that's what I have for lack of a better word, can we just call it a degree in?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's do that. So you did a few turns on General Hospital, is that right? Some under fives.
Yeah, I did a lot of 5 and unders, giving people bad news in the hub. And I was so excited because I thought, I'm not an extra. I have lines. I'm a 5 and under. That means they're going to do my makeup. And there'd be times I'd walk in there and they'd be too busy. And like, can you do your own? I'm like, okay. And I look like motherfucking Bozo the Clown. When I want that. I want all those tapes burned. I mean, I still get residuals from other countries, so I know they're being aired, but
really?
I look like Brooke Shields in Pretty Baby, and I was not supposed to.
I'm really surprised to hear that. I basically thought that daytime television, they just threw it away at the end of the day.
No.
After it airs once.
No, from the checks I get for 12 cents, they go to other countries and re-air them, apparently.
Wow, that's really cool.
There used to be a cool bar here in the Valley called Residuals, which doesn't exist anymore. And it's so LA. It was for underworked, underemployed, let's say, out of work actors that you could bring your residual check in any amount for 4 cents and give it to them, and they give you a beer.
Oh my God, that's the greatest thing ever.
It was awesome. So there was just all the walls were lined with these residual checks for like almost always under $1. And I always wish every time I get one of those checks, I'm like, it takes more to cash it than to just leave it. I wish that bar still existed because it was so cool.
Wow. Well, if they're giving away drinks for 4 cents, I can't imagine why they're not around anymore.
Yeah. A lot of drunk out of work actors.
Also, you do some voiceovers for video games and stuff like that?
I haven't done anything in a while. Right. But the big one that everyone loved was Street Fighter. Mm-hmm. And depending on how deep you want to go into like the whole Japanese animation series stuff, I did a lot of that. But I'm Rose in Street Fighter. And people love that. So I go to conventions and stuff and sign stuff. And that's so fun. And it's kind of not really a world that I have a ton of respect for it. And it's fun. But I don't really play video games. We weren't allowed to have. It was a little rich for our blood.
You don't have to tell me.
Yeah, we didn't get to do that. If I wanted to play Pong, I could walk up the street and go to Lynn's house.
Oh my God, they're turning that into is it a TV show or a movie or?
Excuse me.
Or there's something that's happening with Pong. Maybe it's a game show. It's a game show on TV is coming. It's called Pong.
I think in real life it's called tennis.
Right?
So how?
I don't know, but it's coming. Pong, the game show. The television game show, Pong.
Apparently we're not out of ideas. Plenty to go.
No.
We're out.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're done.
So I don't really play, but I love voicing for video games. It is so much fun because you spend a whole day just
in your jammies.
Well, I do that here too.
No makeup, ponytail.
I literally am only wearing clothes because you're here. Otherwise, I did not get on the Dress for Success New Year's resolution band with Adam, which he has to notice every day. Just so disappointed.
Maybe that's why he's doing it.
Yeah, lift all boats.
Yeah, he's just trying to subtly say, "Hey, pick up your game."
It used to be Brian was the only sucker that wore a button down every day, and Adam and I were in t-shirts and baseball hats. But now I'm the odd man out, so I'm trying, but not really. But all day you spend in a studio by yourself, taking punches, doing kicks, alone.
Can I hear a couple?
Oh, it's been a while. Let's see. We'll try a stomach punch. It's just you have to act it out, and you do it alone. And when I do, I did a lot of dubbing cartoons from usually Korea or Japan into English. There's a lot of sort of sensually scared girls. I don't know why.
We don't need to go there. That's fine.
Oh, okay. We can skip it.
You don't. I'm just saying you don't have to give me. Okay,
I'm happy to do it.
All right, give me some.
And it's not that she's turned on; she's just scared. But she sounds like it's a sexy ghost. It's always. I don't know, man. That's what I just give them what they ask for, and that's what they ask for.
That's fantastic.
Thanks. I need to drink water.
Oh, that's good stuff.
Okay.
If it's okay, I'd like to ask you about your time in New York.
Anything.
Particularly on 9/11.
Yeah, sure.
Where were you that day? Or at that time?
It was a beautiful day. I got off the train. I was walking into Chelsea to go to work at Hugo Boss Corporate, where I was a permanent temp. And
permanent temp is just pimp.
Oh, it's a pimp. Yeah, I was a pimp. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
You're a pimp.
Wow, I wish I would have known that 20 years ago. Thank you now. And I have this distinct memory because I was always kind of my head in the clouds. I'm not really detail oriented. I don't really have a lot of great spatial awareness. I'm kind of the anti-Adam in that way. I just kind of walk around la la la, and the world passes me by a lot of times. And I have this distinct memory of walking from the train to the building and seeing people, obviously on the ground, all kind of looking around and kind of laughing or kind of going, startled because no one knew what they were looking at, and going, well, that's weird. La, 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 la. And just not taking it in or bothering to look up. I just wasn't thinking. I was listening to music.
Well, I think that was more common pre 9/11.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. There was no head on a swivel. Everyone's just like, what's happening? And I remember I got in the elevator with one of the, department heads of the office. And I was like, what's going on out there? I noticed, a lot of people. And she said, somebody just attacked the World Trade Center. I go, and even then, because you're right, now that means something to us. But when you've never seen, a certain color or whatever, it just doesn't, it doesn't exist. So when someone says something like that, and I'm, very young, I'm going, oh, what does that mean? And going upstairs and having all of these.
How old were you at this time? Like 25, 26, something like that in that area?
I was 23.
Okay.
And I just moved there a couple weeks earlier. That's why I was a temp. And it was just chaos in the building and TV screens everywhere and, on the news, and no one knew what was going on. And we happened to share a floor with the CIA. So it was just a bizarre, when like in the meatpacking district, like, just industrial buildings. It was just a bizarre place. And it's hard to talk about because in some ways it seems, and I wish there was a better word for this, and I'm sure there is, but I'm not thinking of it, almost like emotionally masturbatory. Like, I don't think I'm special because I saw something horrible. I think it's insane that I was somewhere that, it is now considered a world event, but it's weird to talk about because it clearly wasn't about me. I'm fine, and a lot of people aren't. But that being said, we all piled into our CEO's office because he had floor-to-ceiling windows and saw the second building. It's hard to explain because I've never seen a building demolished before, but crumble sideways. And I remember falling to my knees. And a lot of the people just started wailing because you just couldn't believe what you were looking at. And at that point, I think the CEO or the CFO comes in, and this talk about what separates the haves from the have-nots. He said, nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows what to do. If you have a private plane, I suggest you get on it. If you have a boat, I suggest you get on it. And I'm thinking, I just moved here. I'm a temp. I don't know any of you.
Like, does everybody here have a plane?
My head was swimming for so many reasons. I didn't know any of these people. These, when you're coworkers, you become friends and family. I didn't know anybody. And so I grabbed my purse, and cell phones were still pretty new. You couldn't call anybody because all the towers were busy. And I remember I grabbed my purse and I ran downstairs, and there was someone from the CIA standing in front of our building saying, Miss, if you're not, I need to see your ID. I was like, well, I don't really work here. I'm a temp. He's like, well, I'm sorry, but if you leave, you can't come back. And I didn't know where I was going. And I knew I didn't know any of these people, and I knew no one was going to take me to their house. So I left. And you just start running north because everybody's running north. People have, people in suits have cloths that they've torn and put over their faces and ash on their heads, and everybody's running north. So I'm running too. And I finally get a hold of a friend who lives in the Bronx who had a car, who came and picked a couple of us up that we all went to college together in Kansas, and we all were kind of staying in touch. And she took us to her apartment. I called my dad, who was working at KNX 1070, huge news station, where he was working at the time.
Where is that?
That's here in LA.
Okay.
And old. You can always tell if a radio station has 3 letters, they've been around forever. 4 letters is when they ran out of 3 letters, and now you're a newer station.
That explains our KO pictures.
Exactly.
Cool, thanks.
So I called just to tell my dad that I was okay. And next thing I knew, they were putting me on the air because I was there. So I'm just kind of shaken up trying to tell my dad that I'm alive. And all of a sudden I hear, and we're going live to Steve Grad's daughter in New York. And I was like, oh. And had to pull my shit together to now go on a live broadcast for Los Angeles when I was just calling the back office to tell my dad that I was okay. So it was terrifying. My mom immediately wanted me, to come home back to Kansas. I lived in Queens. Even as young as I was and as dumb as I was, I assured her nobody wants shit in Queens. So I'm fine. That area smelled like burning steel for weeks. And since a friend of mine worked downtown, if you had a pass that you lived in that community or you worked in that community, you were allowed to go to ground zero and walk around, which was ridiculous because the stuff that was in the air is so toxic. But we were young and we could get in, so we did. And it's hard to remember now because I can't believe I did it. But we would just go down there and just walk around, just with our eyes just kind of glazed over and our jaws on the floor, and just walk around smoldering metal because we could. I don't know. You didn't know what to do.
So at that time, it was still rubble.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. This was the next day, the next couple days, next week. And all of downtown, it just smelled like melted steel. It was terrifying. It was shocking. It was, especially for anybody, but for a young girl, a hayseed from Kansas.
I was going to say a fresh-faced girl from a small farm town.
Yeah,
basically.
who just moved there and was just like this gut punch. But then again, it's like everybody was walking around like that. So, like if I was crying about something and you were listening, and then that sort of triggered something in your mind about your life and you started crying inconsolably, I wouldn't keep crying. Now I would have to be strong for you. That's
Right.
just how the sort of the lizard brain works.
It's the balance, yeah.
So with everybody walking around shell-shocked and in tears, it feels sort of, I don't know, unbecoming to walk around like that. Like there's sort of a hierarchy to people's pain. And I saw some horrible things and I smelled some horrible things, and I existed in this bubble where people were walking around terrified all the time. But I was so lucky. And as a side note, I was supposed to work at the gym across the street from Tower 2, and I got fired because I lied about how far away I lived because I really needed a job.
Really?
Yeah. And she said I was a liar, and she was not some crazy woman that ran this gym. I was devastated because
I love that you got fired when
Yeah.
apparently you got hired and that address was on your application, right?
Probably. I might have made something up. Who knows? I needed a job.
Sure.
I was going to be a receptionist at a gym. That's how badly I needed a job. And she found out that I lived farther away and I'd never make it in time. And, nobody likes a liar, and went home devastated. But it probably saved my life. I don't know what happened to that gym. I don't know what happened to those people. But I'm just really, and now I know friends of friends who their, coworkers, their fathers, their grandfathers, whoever did not make it out of that building. And all I have is sort of gratitude and being humble about it. And to the first thing I said, I don't even feel right talking about it because I was there, but it is so not my story, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's not cool, but
It was just, but people always say, where were you when? And I've never been anywhere whenever. And I just, for the life of me, can't believe I was there.
wow.
Yeah.
I won't take up too much
No,
more
please.
of your time. Can we talk about why is this your only job right now?
Yeah. Talk about
It's okay.
underemployed.
It's okay. Where's residuals, damn it?
Yes. Those 12-cent residuals.
No, I mean the bar.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
You don't have to if you don't want to, but can you tell us a little bit about like how long you were, where was it,
Of
how long you were
course.
there, and kind of what were the
I'll
circumstances?
tell you anything you want to know, my dear. I have no filter. So I was the same week I went full time with Adam. I went full time on a morning show here and you might know the name, probably not, just if you're not from here. But Mark and Brian were a staple of LA radio. They were the one to beat. They were number one.
So is that is it on at the same time as like Kevin and Bean or something?
Yes, in the 80s and the 90s, Mark and Brian ruled the airwaves. Kevin and Bean were like, the only competition. It was just huge. I mean, they blew everybody away on KLOS
So
out
who's
here.
Mark and who's Brian?
So Brian, I didn't work with. They eventually went their separate ways. And Mark Thompson said, I want to go back to radio. I want to do this again. So he put together a morning show. I fought like a fucking crazy person for that job. I take no for an answer all the time. But when it comes to radio jobs, man, I approached an agent and I said, I heard this is happening. No. They've got it figured out. I was like, I've heard differently. No, they've said, look, dude, I have an inside horse who's telling me they're still looking for a girl. So I just kept going back. And I met Mark and he heard my demo and he fell in love with me, as he should. But I love him so much. It's ridiculous. And so I started on the morning show the same week I started here. It was great. I mean, it's a life-changing schedule.
How did you know you could do that? That sounds like
I
a lot.
didn't.
Oh, you just believed, like he said, like he
yeah.
says all the time, you just took a shot on yourself. Like
Yeah,
you bet on you.
When people ask me, how do I make a documentary? My answer is, you make a documentary. And that was me. How do you do it? You do it. People people have worked a lot harder than you in this life. So, for you to inconvenience yourself for a giant opportunity is a fair trade. I got the best advice from one of my best friends, Teresa Strasser, who I thought she was kidding at first. And then I saw her expression not change. And I said, oh shit, this is real. She said, go to bed at 7 p.m. No more naps. You don't nap anymore. Now you go to bed at 7 p.m. I was like, that's not a thing. She goes, yes, it is. You're going to need it. And napping will destroy your day. And she was right, because I tried that too. And I gained 40 pounds. So
Really?
yeah, that's why when I met Vinny, that's what I had to take off.
That's
I gained almost 40 pounds.
from taking naps.
Yeah, naps. And we had a vending machine here.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was walking around like a zombie.
Did Vinny get rid of that?
No, I think that was Adam's doing, because we're all trying to do the same thing and it wasn't helping any of us.
Sure.
So I didn't know I could do it, but I like you said, I bet on myself. I said, this is what you've been working for. When preparation meets
Opportunity.
That's the one. And I've been preparing for this for so long, and I was going to be damned if all of a sudden all these people believed in me and I was going to be the only exception. Hell no. You fake it and you figure it out. So I did that. I wake up at 3 a.m. and prep, and then the show started at 5 or 5:30. I don't know, something like that. Then I would prep for Adam, come here, and just sort of wander through life like a little zombie and do my best not to yawn in anyone's face, just because I was adjusting to the schedule.
Were you just like shooting coffee into your veins? Like,
I don't drink coffee.
what did you do? How do you not drink coffee?
I know. I'm scared. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, and I'll have like a couple sips here, especially with Vinny's coffee because I love it. But I've never been a caffeine person. I just drink water like a dick. I don't know. Also, I just like water. It's my drink, because I got it in my head somewhere in my life that many diseases and problems can be cured with enough sleep and enough water, because I constantly feel dehydrated and exhausted. So I'm very focused on making sure I'm drinking water and making sure I'm sleeping.
Sounds like you grew up in a farming community.
It's funny because I grew up in such the burbs. I mean, the suburbs of Kansas City, but close enough to the farming community. And so yeah, and the adrenaline. I mean, that red light goes on and you're doing a show for Los Angeles and you better be awake. So you just kind of, I don't know, I just wake up.
Wow.
And also, I've always had like more than normal anxiety than like a normal person. So the caffeine, all it does is I'm still exhausted, and now I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack. Coffee doesn't it's not a panacea for me like it seems to be for everybody else.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're doing this gig.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you doing both full time?
Until November. So almost 3 years, I guess. 2.5 years, a little more.
So 3 years with 1 day off a week.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I always had to remind myself when I get, grumbly or tired or constantly canceling plans, constantly saying, don't bother inviting me. I can't show up.
If it's after 7, I'll be asleep.
Yeah. And, and I work the next day, or, because we have always taped Sunday through Thursday for Adam and Monday through Friday for the show. And so there's just no time. And I'm very protective of my time. I always have been.
It's so precious.
Yeah. And I've always been kind of a hermit, and my friends loved when I got this job because they made fun of me mercilessly and said, finally, a real excuse you can pin it on that you don't ever want to do anything, because I'm a homebody and I like to do my own thing. And I always tell people, I will bail you out of jail in the middle of the night, no problem, but I'm not going to lunch with you on a random Tuesday. That's just not where my priorities are.
I'll bail you out of jail as long as it's around no later than about 3 in the afternoon.
Oh no, I'll do it in the middle of the night. It will be show content. You will pay. But I'm more of a once in a while, and I'm trying to change. But I'm more of a once in a while. I'm your girl, ride or die bitch. But I don't have time to meet you for coffee.
Right.
Did that answer the question? I don't remember.
It answered most of it.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So what happened? How come you're not there anymore?
It is very common. Actually, it's my third flip in radio that stations flip. They flip formats.
That's how Adam started all this, right?
Exactly. So when he worked at 97.1, I worked at 97.1. We lost our jobs the same day. They flipped from an all-talk station, which is very expensive to run. You're paying 7 morning show salaries a day. I mean, it's very expensive to run a talk station. And they sold it to a top 40 station, and the new broom sweeps clean. and they got rid of all of us and replaced it, with a music station. So
That's a pretty sad testament to how much musicians are paid royalties.
Absolutely.
If programming,
Spotify is king, Pandora is king, they don't see anything.
Right. I mean, if playing 24 hours a day of music that you have to pay royalties on is still cheaper than paying like 9 people or
absolutely. Absolutely.
That's sad.
Yeah, very. So I was at Classic Rock Station, and it was such a niche market. People loved it. People, what if you're a classic rock fan, you are a diehard classic rock fan. That's, just the way it is. And we got, not to get too mired down in the details because I don't know how much people care, but our company got bought by another company, and when that company came to LA, you're only allowed to own so many AM and FM stations in one market. So they had to get rid of somebody. And so it was kind of, as my friend said, death by 1,000 paper cuts. We knew it was coming. Is it going to be us? Is it going to be Jack FM? Is it going to be this station? Well, let's see. We're more valuable in this way, but they're more valuable in this way. And we're easier to bundle into a cluster, but they're easier on their own. So we didn't up until minutes, days, but just a few days before, I'm talking 3 maybe, we had no idea. We'd show up on the air and make jokes about it. And people thought it was a publicity stunt. We literally didn't know ever if we were getting laid off. And then they gave us the news, and then we pushed the button, and now it is a religious rock station.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Rock and roll for Jesus,
Rock and roll, man. And you know what?
Wait, does that mean you can't do the devil horns?
No devil horns.
You have to be all woohoo, putting up a cross on your fingers.
Yeah, I just took it off my preset.
or like at a concert, you got to be all.
Yeah, right, exactly. Let the Spirit fill you.
That's
and
nice.
And God bless, no pun intended. This is radio. This happens. I get it.
Oh, this wasn't the Spirit fill you. This was stigmata.
Oh, see, I'm Jewish, so I don't get all the references all the time. But, I have to tell you, only having one job now, and it being this job, as much as I loved my other job and would love another one if anyone's listening, I needed this so bad.
The break?
Yeah.
Some rest?
Oh, my God.
Especially right now with everything that was going on in your
and that was
personal life.
another thing. It's like there was never time to look at your personal life because you were just running ragged all the time. And I was always sick, and I was always, with the scarves and the hot tea, and just always just good enough. And when this happened, and you get compensated in certain ways when the layoffs and whatever, and to have time to just sort of deal with life, deal with your personal life, reconnect with people who are important to you. Stop keeping everyone at arm's length, saying, sorry, I'm very tired. I can't be tired tomorrow. And going, oh no, what the hell? Yeah, you guys want to go to a third location, which is not my style, but being able to reconnect with my friends. I'm a bridesmaid in a wedding, seeing family. This shit's important. And I've been putting it aside for years because I have goals, and if people love me and if people respect me, they're going to respect my goals. Well, I wasn't respecting them in return.
I'm a little surprised somebody even asked you to be a bridesmaid.
I know.
Just because of your.
She took a
so
chance. And she's
cool.
one of my best friends, and I'm honored to be in it. And I just realized, like, not only do I have a lot of favors to return and a lot of people that I need to know that I value them, but it's filling my spirit back up in a way that I didn't think I needed. I'm humble enough to say, like, wow, I really needed it. I was really empty and I didn't realize it.
Cool.
Yeah, and I can sleep. Sometimes I wake up at like 11. Yeah, me too.
Is it at some point going to be necessary for you to get another job?
Yeah, probably. But the other thing is having a mom in banking and having a dad who's been in radio for a million years. So I've seen I've seen everything. I have a really, maybe unhealthy fear, but I was going to say a healthy fear of not having enough. So I'm a good saver.
It also sounds like maybe part of your heritage helps.
Oh, sure.
Part, right?
Yeah. Jews are always on the move, man. You never know. And it's probably in the DNA. I wouldn't be surprised.
To hear Drew tell it, he's terrified every day he's going to lose all of his money on the way home.
Yeah, and he's right to feel that way because he's in entertainment. I mean, he's also an actual doctor,
right.
But yeah, it can all go away. And Mark Thompson, God love him, one of the things he said to us the first day and would say every day, because he was like a dad to all of us, you saving? You saving your money?
Oh, really?
Oh, he said that to me every day. I go, oh, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm going on vacation. Gina?
Was he
you
asking that more and more, like in the days leading up?
Yeah, he was. He was. And, when other people were buying homes and remodeling parts of their house, I was like, I'm a renter. I guess I'll just sock it away. So I have to say, for the first time in my life, I'm in a good place where I'm not living paycheck to paycheck and I'm not constantly living in fear and borrowing money and feeling like a useless, parasite. I'm good, and I'd like to stay that way. And I'd like to continue to build that arsenal of cash. So yeah, and that's the thing. Like when I was doing the podcast, not just for free, my own podcast, but it cost money to do that. Yeah. It still never occurred to me to stop doing it, because this is what sometimes you're just lucky enough to know what you're supposed to be doing. And even if people are mean about it and you read terrible things about yourself, and I'd go home to this horrible, shitty little studio apartment downtown where I had a box of feral cats in my kitchen because it gave birth on my doorstep, and asking gang members to kindly get off my car so I could go to work. Horrible, horrible situation. And going home and reading these terrible things about myself and thinking, if they only knew the squalor that I lived in, that just barely scraping by I was doing. Because everyone thinks if they can hear your voice, they're punching up, that you must be, swimming in cash like Scrooge McDuck because they can hear your voice. But we had nothing. I had nothing. And, just taking these beatings from people and coming back every day to do it again, I realized, I guess I'm supposed to be doing this, because otherwise, why would I show up again and have to deal with the heartbreak that comes with strangers being mean because it's easier? And also, but during that time, having gaining this amazing fan base and this amazing encouragement, this support, it just made sense.
Well, I hope that you do feel the support.
I do. I do now.
From what I can see, I mean, obviously, I am a huge fan, but from what I can see on social media and whatnot, so is everybody else.
Thank you. And I don't really even have any negative interactions anymore. And if I do, I'm like, ooh, yippee! Because all I can do is just, you bat them around like a cat with a mouse, and then you move on with your life. But it's not that constant assault of proving yourself. And I'm thick-skinned in some ways, but I'm kind of a marshmallow. I'm sensitive, and it hurts. But I don't experience that anymore. And now looking back, I'm like, man, I can handle that. I'm not afraid of shit. And, and people like, my mentor and like my big sister and one of my best friends, Teresa Strasser, was so instrumental, just because I've known her since KLSX. I've known her for a million years. So having her to sort of bounce stuff off of, and her telling her, crazy, funny sob stories about things that were said to her, you just feel so much less alone. And it made a big difference. People like that in your life are very important.
Yeah, it's good to have cheerleaders. There's enough negativity without them being close.
Yeah. And I think just people get a good sense of who I am, and whether they like it or not, whether I laugh too loud, whether I say something too quietly, whether I make one of a million mistakes when I'm reading the news, which is why Brian's favorite drop is I'm not really a news person. At the very least, I think people can see now that I'm authentic. I couldn't play this part. I'm not that good of an actress, and I figured that out many years ago.
Just a couple more, and I'll let you go. Recently, I guess I don't know if you're a staple now, but you're doing some Sunday things with Vinny.
Yes.
Is that going to continue?
Yeah, I think we're going to keep doing it. His Sunday school show, which is so great.
So Vinny Tortorich's
Sunday school, which is basically, it's an extension of what he does with nutrition and health, but it's based more toward kids.
He puts out I don't know, does he do 7 days a week? He puts out a lot of, I think it's every day or close to it.
He's a machine. He's ridiculous. And we used to do live shows together. We would sell out like the Improv and stuff. We were having so much fun.
Why did that stop?
Well, we kept going back to the same wells, and we're like, how long can we do this? I mean, the same people keep coming, and that's fantastic, but we should probably give it a break, because I don't know, how many times can you say it to the same people? It just seemed like we should probably just ease off on it a little bit, and then we'll sort of do it again when a new crop of ears and eyes want to see it. Good. But I have always been super super suspicious of diets and nutritionists and stuff because I've had friends that have done, the hormone injections and the fasting and the fucking lemonade cleanse, which thank God I have hypoglycemia because it's kept me from doing a lot of these things. And, and he was like, well, if you dump a thing of whole milk in your coffee, and I'm like, that's not a thing. And he's like, yeah, it is. But being raised on Weight Watchers and Snackwells and the Olestra cookies that say on the bag may cause anal leakage.
Thank you for shouting that.
Get that drop. That's the kind of food I was raised around because it was the 80s and then that's what you ate. Or not, 90s, all of it. But having someone come in and being like, Gina, I'm asking you to trust one more person. And I know how taxing that is for you. And I know how exhausting it is. Because I was walking around and you probably had this. I mean, because this is where my weight goes specifically. Like I had an inner tube around my stomach. Like it was an inner tube. I couldn't get rid of it. And I think it's called, I don't know what you call it, some bib something.
Who cares?
Who gives a shit? It's over now. But he's like, it's the grain, it's the sugar, it's highly inflammatory. And just personally, thank God I did that because when I started cutting out grain specifically, my skin cleared up because I've always had eczema my entire life. I'm having a little bit of a flare up right now, which you can tell I have not been doing very well on my lifestyle eating. But I've had it my entire life. I didn't know why. And turns out I am a genetic celiac carrier. So one of my parents has it. They just don't care. And neither one of them feel like getting tested, apparently. But I have celiac, and I'm very sensitive to gluten. And my doctor's like, look, this isn't funny. Like, it's not a joke. You can't cheat. It causes this disease, you gotta you can't have it anymore. And it's super easy not to have when you don't eat grains. So for me, it could have saved my life. I don't know. But the weight finally started coming off. I finally felt like I was back in my own body. I look at pictures, my face looks like a catcher's mitt. It's bigger than it is supposed to be. It didn't look like me. It looked like just a bloated version of me. It looked like a funhouse version of me. And it was so sad. And what do people do when they're sad? They eat. So I hoard my cookies so you don't try and yank them out of my hands. But, not treating food as reward, not treating food as punishment, not, I deserve this. I had a long day. No, I deserve to live a long, healthy life and take care of myself and not have stomach problems. That's what I deserve. So it worked. And one thing I was super quiet about when I was doing stuff with Vinny, especially when doing live shows, I never talked about cholesterol because I have high cholesterol just genetically, and all my grandparents died young of heart attacks. And I was afraid to say anything because I didn't want to be wrong. And I didn't, lawsuits. I didn't know what to do. I've been on cholesterol medicine forever. And I was like, I'm not really going to entertain any of those questions until I get some blood work done. And all I know is when I was doing NSNG and I was bracing for bad news with the meats and the high fats and, vegetables, but like meats and high fats, I thought it was going to go up. And I was like, this is just going to be something I'm not really going to shine a light on. My cholesterol went down 16 points.
Wow.
I don't get it. I'm not a scientist and I'm not a nutritionist. I don't know how.
So that's a cool thing is that you don't need to get it.
I don't get it. All I know is it happened. So I'm comfortable staying on the NSNG diet and not having a cholesterol problem. That's all I know. I don't know. None of my dosages were changed. Nothing was changed.
I have pretty weak lungs, and I have for my whole life. So for a while there, it was getting close to every 3 months, but typically around every 6 months, I would get a respiratory infection.
Oh, God.
And then it would turn into pneumonia. And
God.
And so finally I started seeing a pulmonologist, which is a lung doctor.
Yeah.
And, he put me on some different inhaling medications and whatnot for allergies and to help my lungs build. And he did a lung test and said that I was using about 40% of my lungs and have been for most of my life.
Scary.
And so besides the drugs that he gave me, it was so weird because the first time I ever saw this doctor, he tapped me on the stomach and said, and also we need to lose some of this weight, which was like the rudest thing I ever heard in my life.
That's not a good bedside manner.
But after listening to Vinny a little bit, I was listening to Vinny for a really long time before I decided to do anything.
Uh-huh. Yeah, me too.
So, like I said, I lost 30 pounds and I went back to my pulmonologist for a checkup and they did another test and now I'm up to 50%. And
that's great.
He said, he noticed my weight loss and he said, what are you doing differently? And I explained it to him as best I could.
Right.
And he said, well, to tell you the truth, that weight loss has probably helped you out more than any of these medications.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense because
It really does.
if you want to get graphic, because I told you I'm an open book to a fault, I was having, do you want to know like lady parts?
Hit me. Why not?
Okay. As I've gotten older, I've gotten really horrible cramps, like debilitating. I never had that problem. Ever. Couldn't get out of bed. It like shoots down your legs. It shoots up down your arms. I mean, it was fucking my life up. And like just different weird like hormonal things and fibroids and just all this stuff. And I would go to the gynecologist, I'd go to the doctor, and finally, one of them finally told me what I needed to hear because I'm not a fat person. I'm just me and I'm perfect. And what's the problem? And she was like, you've put on a lot of weight. That's when I gained 40 pounds. So you gain a lot of weight. And if you can get rid of it, and I don't know the best way to do it, whatever she said, but a lot of the stuff will go away. And I was like, word? Okay. And, with Vinny's help, I lost it. And yeah, all that stuff's gone. So yeah. When your body's working harder to accomplish, to get itself to zero, there's side effects. I mean, I found that out personally. But I was such a skinny, scrawny kid, just a little skeletal, didn't take up any room, never made any noise, just kind of shy. And, unless I was with my family, I was just kind of timid and just skin and bones. I just was. So I wasn't used to taking up any room. And I always kind of was jealous of girls who were curvy and kind of big. And I would literally say like, wow, you get to take up room in the world. And so when I started putting on weight, I was like, ooh, I take up room. Like people, I can't be overlooked now. And I just forgot where the stop button was.
Oh, you're so funny.
Yeah, man.
The doctor, he explained to me that the diaphragm has to work really hard for me anyway because because my lung capacity is shit. But if I'm packing a bunch of weight on top of that diaphragm, then it has to work even harder.
Right.
So,
that makes perfect sense.
Right. So, if somebody explains it to you, it makes sense. But the first time I went to him and he tapped my stomach, I was like, I'm never going to see this motherfucker again.
Yeah, what a dick.
But he's really great. He's like my favorite doctor.
Okay, good. But it's a rough introduction.
Yeah, a little bit. But I mean, he's dealing with, I'm his youngest by far. Every time I go in, the only people in there are on oxygen.
Oh, Lord.
They're 70 or 80 and they've got walkers. They're in wheelchairs. Like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but San Antonio is notoriously duking it out for like the top 2 and the fattest city in America.
No!
Always.
I had no idea.
They even
must be the breakfast tacos.
It is. It's all the lard we use in the Mexican food.
Yes.
Yeah, even I think it was on Parks and Rec. They made a joke about it. Like they were like Parks and Rec is like that. I guess it took Pawnee.
Yeah, Pawnee.
Yeah, so it took place in Pawnee, Indiana, and like the numbers came out, and we're number 2 fattest city in America. And Aziz Ansari looked right down the barrel of the camera and said, "We're coming after you, San Antonio."
Oh, no, that is not how you want to get on the map.
No, not at all.
Oh, that's sad.
So, one last thing before I ask for all of your handles.
Sure.
Do you remember, and I'm sure you do, a few months ago, Vinny was in here playing a game with you guys, and he won.
Okay, that doesn't happen very often.
Right, so he won, and it just so happened to be pretty fortuitous because there was a prize that day.
What was that?
Well, you and him took a picture of it.
It was traumatic. I probably blocked it out.
It was a dinner plate.
Oh!
With Vinny in a conch shell.
Yes!
That was me. That's me.
That's your handiwork?
That was me.
Oh, honey! You're amazing!
It was one of the greatest things ever. That was
How
me.
did you... What? Where do you find this shit?
I'm just neat.
You're incredible.
I'm super cool, that's all.
You're super... Oh, my God.
I'm awesome. So...
You made the plate?
Well, I had it made, but yes. Tell everybody where they can find you on the social medias.
Can we just talk about the plate more? Can you imagine eating off that thing? Jesus Christ.
No, but Serena said she said it's put in a pretty prized place in the house. And she said it's her favorite thing.
Yeah, that's really who the gift was for. It was not for Vinny. I'm just Gina Grad on everything. Instagram, Gina Grad, Twitter, Gina Grad, Facebook, Gina Grad. I think I might have joined Snapchat, but that is the one thing I cannot figure out. It says Gina Grad, but I don't have it because I'm too old and I don't understand it. Weird. And I think I'm on LinkedIn because there was a million years ago this dude that I thought was hot, and I had to get on LinkedIn to find out his information. But then I got lazy and forgot to stalk him. So
Word.
Yeah.
Gina Grad, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It was so nice to meet you finally.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, if you like what I'm doing, click the Amazon banner at the top of the homepage on FascinationStreetPod.com and do all of your shopping through Amazon. Once you click on it and it takes you to Amazon, you can bookmark it or add it to your favorites and you won't have to go to my site each time. It helps me keep the show going, and again, thanks for listening to Fascination Street. Opening music is the song Magnolia from the 2014 album Intransigence, used with permission from Douglas Miles Clark. Closing music is Apollo from the 2001 album Into the Known by the band Sapphire. Thanks for hanging out with us and getting to know a little bit about our guest. We'll see you next time on Fascination Street.